Welcome to the channel. This is a new Tesla Model 3. Now this is a huge, big deal for Tesla. It's the first big update that this car has had since it was launched in 2017. There's been small changes along the way, but this is the biggest change, changes in design and changes in the interior and the technology. So this is a big deal. Does it live up to that? This is the fast version, the version which goes really, really quickly, over 460 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. These are the top 5 features of the Tesla Model 3. Number 1 is the new Tesla Vision feature. So when you're driving the car, when you're parking, it shows an overview of what you can see around you. And it does that using cameras only, because Tesla have removed the ultrasonic sensors on the front of these cars. Now, I'm not a big fan of that change, but it is really, really impressive that all the adaptive cruise control, all these features work based on the cameras alone. And that's very, very clever. So that's the first cool feature of this car. If you look on the inside of the car, and you can hear it closing like a prison door being closed, which is a fun little Easter egg. There are USB-C ports now which support 65-watt charging. That means it can charge your laptop, which is very, very useful if you want to sit in your Tesla and you want to edit a video like this, or maybe just do your work. It's really handy that we've got fantastic high-speed charging built into this car now and available. Tesla have finally brought ambient lighting to the inside of this car. And so you've got a nice all-round surround view all across the front dashboard where you can see and change the colors of your ambient lighting, which I think is fantastic to have in this car. Makes it feel more luxurious, makes it feel more premium, and lets you customize the interior and make it more of your own interior. In the rear of the Model 3, there's now a separate display. Now, this is very cool because on all other cars, if you want a rear display, it costs extra. It's part of some extra pack. Well, in this car, it's standard, and it means that you can have a separate rear display to the front, so you can watch Netflix, YouTube, if you want to catch up on tech in the car, or various other streaming services in the back. Fantastic for if you have kids, or if you just want to have some time to watch your own stuff in the back while somebody else is in the front. Or maybe you want to lie down in the back and watch a movie when you're napping. Who knows? But you have the choice. Now, one other change, which is very cool, which I have mixed feelings about, is the steering wheel, because all the stalks have been removed. And now if you want to control the car, you press all the buttons on the steering wheel. That means on the steering wheel, there's indicator buttons, there's a flashing button for your light, there's a camera button, there's wiper control, there's your voice control button. It's all on the steering wheel. Now, I'll talk about this more when we drive later, but those are the 5 cool features of the Tesla Model 3, as far as I'm concerned, that I think are worth talking about. Let's start with the prices. So this is a rear-wheel drive model, and this starts at £39,990, and it has 318 miles of WLTP range. If you move to the 18-inch wheels, then it actually goes up to 344 miles. If you want to go up to the all-wheel drive version, then we're talking about another £10,000, so £49,990. And then if you want to go to the performance model, which has around 460 miles of range, then that's another £10,000, £59,990, which has a WLTP range of 328 miles. So really, really interesting mixture here of that, of the miles and the WLTP range, and of course the price. I do like Tesla's model structure and pricing structure. It's very easy to follow. One of the changes that Tesla has made on this car, which affects its ride quality, is these wheels. These wheels are different to the previous generation, so they're much more designed towards comfort. So when you ride, you feel the impact of the road less. You get a quieter ride noise inside the car, so there's less noise. And also when you hit bumps in the road, it's 25% less noisy. So that's a big change that these have made. Now, as I mentioned, on the 19-inch wheels, you get less range than the 18-inch wheels. So if you have the choice on the rear wheel model, I would certainly recommend the 18-inch wheels. They may not look as good, but I think the extra miles from 318 to 344 are worth it, and will make the car an even better car to live with. Let's start at the front with these wheels. These are 20-inch wheels at the front and back, and they have Pirelli P0 tires specifically designed to work better for Tesla. I love Pirelli P0 tires. I just think they look really, really good. A little thing, I know, tire design, but anyway. And these wheels are actually staggered, so they're wider at the back than they are at the front, which they do so it improves the handling of the car. Now, Audi do a similar thing on the RS3 with wider fronts than the rear. Tesla have done it the other way around, which is typically how you find it on cars, but the staggered tires mean better performance. These wheels are performance model exclusives, and these sections actually come out, so you can remove them, and you can see there's red brake calipers under there, which are, again, exclusive to the Model 3 performance. I love the look of these wheels. And I think the removable aero bits are very, very clever. So if you want to have more open wheels, you can do that. If you want to keep it like this, which is better for the aerodynamics, then great. At the front of the Model 3, there's new headlights. Now, the previous Model 3 front was maybe considered to look a bit like a fish from my recollection. These new headlights are a lot slimmer, a lot more exciting to look at. They've got a daytime running light, which looks like this, which is very reminiscent of the original Model S headlights. They looked like that, so it's kind of taken that feature from the past and brought it into the new models, and they're much slimmer and they look really, really good. And then at the front here, as I mentioned, all the ultrasonic sensors are gone. There's no parking sensors anywhere here. It all works off the cameras up the top there, which may or may not be a good thing. I'll discuss that later on. But what it means is the front of the new Model 3 is a lot more purposeful, a lot more aggressive, and looks a lot more eye-catching. At the front here, there are some changes, namely this front splitter, which looks very cool. And we've got these air vents down the side, which go through and come out the other side of the tires, which improve cooling and aerodynamics. It looks really good in this stealth gray color. However, I would prefer a brighter color so you can see the details a bit better. But there are definitely some cool changes to this car, starting with that splitter at the front. At the rear, the changes to the lights continue from the front. So we've got new, more futuristic, more modern looking rear lights, which are of a C shape. And then we've got Tesla as a badge across the back, which is something which they've added on. Lots of manufacturers are doing that now, and it's pretty common. I think, however, you're going to know that this is the Tesla because this is one of the most popular cars you can buy on the road right now. Everybody recognizes the Tesla, and you're not losing that familial traits with these new design updates. The other thing I really like from the side is the way the panoramic glass roof slopes down. I think the side and rear three quarters of the Teslas are very, very attractive to look at, and I really like them. At the rear of the Model 3, we've got this cool carbon fiber spoiler, which I love, and we've got a rear diffuser for helping with the aerodynamics, and then we've got the badge here. So this is not the plaid badge, this is the performance badge, or I think they're calling it Insane. And it looks very similar. It's very cool, and it's on the seats inside as well. How much space is there in the back of the new Model 3? There's 425 litres of space back here, which is pretty decent. You've got a big space where you can put your charging cables underneath here, or you could use that for something else. And there are tether points and hooks at the side that you can use to attach various bits of shopping or whatever you want in the back here. So this has got pretty decent space for the car of its size. I actually think this is a really nice big boot opening and works very well. This is an interesting quirk of the Model 3 in Europe and the UK. In the US, if the rear of a car is open, the lights have to be visible from the road. Now, this isn't a requirement in the UK or Europe, but in the US it is. And that means manufacturers do lots of interesting things to make sure that if the boot is open, the hazard lights are still visible. Well, what happens on the Tesla Model 3? They move down here. And this is because of the US regulations. And it's very interesting that we're seeing that US regulation actually showing up in a car in the UK. And that's obviously because this Tesla is available everywhere, but you don't see that on European cars. The rear of the Model 3 had some big changes, which I really like. First of all, the angle of these seats has been changed to make it more comfortable. We have an armrest with cup holders, very helpful. The big change in the back here is this screen. This screen is super cool because not only does it allow you to adjust the air conditioning, just like you would on the front by moving your hands around or your fingers around and pointing wherever you want to point, but also you can adjust whether the heated seats are on. You can also adjust the position of the passenger seat. Look at that. That's pretty cool. And then the other thing you can do is you can watch movies. You can watch Netflix, YouTube, Twitch, Disney+, and I'm sure Tesla will bring other services as well. There are games, and you can connect your own Bluetooth headphones to this so you can listen to different movies and TV shows, and even actually listen to music in the back that's different to the front, although they can control this from the front. So if there's children in the back of the car, they can adjust what is being watched themselves, or the parents can do it from the front so they can stop the fighting. And you can even lock it at the front so it can't be adjusted from the back. So that's a pretty cool feature. How about seating space for me? Well, I'm 1.78 m. Thanks to this beautiful panoramic glass roof, I've got plenty of space here. I've got plenty of leg space. If I move this seat back so I can actually put it back into the position where somebody will be sitting, I've got about this much space. This is quite far back, but I'm comfortable. And with this beautiful panoramic glass roof, there's so much light coming in here, it doesn't feel cramped at all. In the new Model 3, there are some big changes on the interior. For example, the first thing I would say which catches your eye is this new ambient lighting, which I've got set up in purple. You're now able to bring your own sense of style to the interior of the Model 3. That's a big step, and a very cool step at that. And then we have a thinner bezel around this display, which I can't really tell the difference, but apparently it's there. And then we've got a nicely damped system in the middle with different materials which feel very nice, and I hate piano black, and there's no piano black in here. The other thing we have here too is 3 USB-C charging ports which do 65 watts of power, so you can charge your laptop. And don't forget, we still have wireless charging in the center here, which is nice. Now, one of the most contentious things of this car is this steering wheel. This is the steering wheel, and this is a big contentious thing because you'll notice there's no stalks on the steering wheel. Now, I'm a big fan of taking everything away and putting it on steering wheel. It is safer, but I'm not sure about the way that Tesla have done it. For example, these indicators, when you turn the steering wheel, where are they? Which one's the front? Which one's the left? Which one's the right? It's confusing. I'm not sure I like how Tesla have done this. On cars like Ferraris, and I admit Ferrari is maybe an edge case here, there are actual physical buttons on the steering wheel which you can tap. Even if they're capacitive, having them away from the other buttons on the steering wheel would make them easier to find and tap. Also, I'm not a big fan of when you tap them. The feedback is pretty limited. In fact, there isn't really any feedback, and so you can accidentally not hit them when you think you've hit them. There isn't much definition in the buttons. I know there's a little divider here. However, when you do press them, you get a blind spot indicator now on the car, which appear here, a little red light if there's a car in your blind spot. And of course, when you indicate, you see it pop up on the screen so you can see what is on each side, which I really like, and that goes red when there's somebody in your blind spot. And how do you put the autopilot on? You double tap on the side here and it will do it. Other than that, though, I do like the other ways that they've done the buttons here. We've got the flash button here. We've got our windscreen wiper button here. We've got our voice control button. And then we've got our camera button, which brings up the camera, and our cruise control button as well. Here inside the Model 3 Performance, there are some nice changes, including these fantastic seats, these bucket seats, which have got bolsters on the side, which have the Performance model logo on here, which looks great. I love that little attention to detail. These seats feel quite supportive to me. I haven't obviously taken on the track, but they've got good support, and I'm sure they would do a great job on the track. And then other than that, inside here, we've got carbon fiber on the dash here, which makes it look more sporty. And we've got obviously all this Alcantara around the inside of the doors. And it's just a little bit more sporty on the inside, which makes it a bit different from the Model 3 standard models. But the main difference, other than these fantastic seats, is on here. So let's have a look at the track mode. Let's look at the Tesla infotainment system because things have changed since the last time I looked at it. So first of all, this is a really nice 3D representation of the car. You can change the color of the car, and of course I can tap it to open the ports. So I can open the charging port here and it will open the charging port. And I really like how simplistic and easy this is to use. I can go into my radio stations. I can see the colorizer, which can change the color of the car. I can use the car like a boombox and play my music, so I'm like in an 80s movie and I'm trying to liven up the car park. We can do a light show, can change the color. I can make it fart if I want to. We can jam to music. We can have a romantic fire. We can draw sketches. We can put ourselves on Mars, or we can have Santa going down the road, or we can have the Rainbow Road when we're in auto steer, which is very, very cool. We can watch movies, Netflix, Disney+, YouTube, Twitch, just like in the rear of the car. We can go to the radio, we can go to Spotify, we can go to the phone, and then we can adjust the climate control by tapping here and it will bring it up, and we can move around what we want here, front and rear, go on auto or off if we want to. The other cool thing here is we have cooled seats now, so my seat can cool me in the summer when it's hot, and we can go into dog mode, or we can go into camp mode, so it will maintain the temperature of the car and let people know if your dog is in the car, which is really, really handy. And we have quick settings at the top here, as well as access to the dash cam and the navigation, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Audible. If we go to the dash cam, and I can see when the Sentry has been set off, when people have got too close to the car, it records it. And this is not a new feature, but it's just nice to see. Lots of cars you have to buy a separate dash cam. Tesla has their own dash cam built in and will let you know either through Sentry mode or through the dash cam when something happens. And I like that it gives you that peace of mind, no fitting another dash cam, which is great. In terms of the car settings, well, that again is easy enough. You tap the settings button and you can go into dynamics and you can go to charging, autopilot. And I have some thoughts on autopilot because we've added strikeouts due to improper use. So we're talking about that when I'm driving. We can adjust all the various settings here. So everything is here. It's easy to use. You can use your phone as a key or you can use a key card as a key. It's just very, very intuitive and easy to use this infotainment system. But this has got something new. If we go to dynamics, we can of course adjust the acceleration from chill to standard to insane if we want the really fast performance. We've got our ride and handling, and as we know, we've got the ability for this car to use the adaptive dampeners to adjust the suspension, which is a fantastic feature, and we can adjust the steering weight from heavy, standard and light. Now if we move to track mode, it says only use it on a track. And now we have a lot of interesting new settings. Now, first of all, you can hear the fans and the cooling start to come on now because it's trying to make sure that everything is as cool as possible before we put that performance on. In our race preset, the balance is 0 because we want it to be precise and exact, and we want it to turn in, and we don't want it to have oversteer or understeer. We don't want the stability assist because we want the driver to have total control. So that is really important, and we can see those settings. If we go to the drift preset now, you can see I can now see the handling balance is 100% to the oversteer, or plus 10 to the oversteer. And again, stability assist is off because we want to make sure that you can drift the car. And then if we go to this test mode, so you can call it whatever you want. We call it test for this video, but you can then change it. So I can then have up to 10 of oversteer and up to -10 of understeer. So if I want to drift in or out, I can do that. I can also adjust the stability assist manually. So let's say I wanted to have a go at drifting, for example, but I wanted to make sure that I still had a bit of stability control, so I didn't spin it into the corners. I can do that. And I can adjust the regen braking as well. And I can also adjust the post-drive cooling, and I can save the laps for the dash cam. And that's the same with these. These are all grayed out because this is a preset. It automatically does those things, post-race cooling and pre-race cooling, which you can hear from the fans and everything. But that is really cool. Now on the side here, you can see here it shows us our component temperatures for the motors and the brakes at the front and the back and the battery as well. And we can see how it's doing. We can see the ESC's traction control is off. And we can also see down here it says track mode enabled. Automatic emergency braking is unavailable because it's turned off all the assistance safety features, and it says track mode enabled, and it says track up here, just in case you didn't realize you were in track mode. If the noise of the whirring motors and everything going on wasn't enough, now you have it in big writing on the screen as well. Now you could drive the car like this all the time if you wanted to, but you'd be giving up on the fantastic safety features that Tesla has built in, and that would be a compromise I wouldn't want to make. But there are always some people that love to drive on the edge and don't like to have everything on. Well, with this, they can do that in their Model 3. Just, they won't be crashing because they're not paying attention. They'll be crashing because they're going too fast. Hopefully, neither will happen though. But that's new track mode settings on the new Performance Model 3. One feature I really like of this car is the ability for it to know itself whether I want to go forwards and backwards and reverse or drive if I'm parked. So I don't need to choose the gear. So how this works is I put my seatbelt on, and then if you look at the screen, it will tell me tap to activate reverse. So if I tap reverse now, the car knows that I want to go into reverse, and it automatically goes backwards. It just does it by itself, and then I can select the normal gear like this. This is a very cool feature that I really like a lot, and I think it's really clever that Tesla put that into this car, and it helps for those who maybe need a bit of help when parking, or it's just a cool feature. If you can't select the gears like this, there are actually buttons at the top here which light up when you can't use the normal gears on the screen, and you can select them. There we go, and you can select them to choose your gear like that. Very cool. Now, I can't really make a video about Tesla without talking about the front, because Tesla seems to be one of the originators of the front, and the Model 3 still has a massive front, and the towing eye is down here. So the Model 3 is a leader in its class for front space, and that hasn't changed here at all. The new Tesla Model 3 update has some big improvements, which I've talked about in the video, but there's big improvements driving the car because the suspension is a lot better. The ride is a lot more comfortable. It's enjoyable to drive, which is very, very important. And as a car, it's just a better vehicle. The car is actually 25% less crashy. That's not actually a word, but probably a good way to describe it. So Tesla have done lots of work on the suspension. They've changed lots of things, and they've changed the tires, which means that the ride is a lot better. So that when I go over bumps or holes in the road, I don't notice it as much anyway. You still notice bumps in the road, but it doesn't bother you. But I do have some complaints, and those complaints start with the indicators on the steering wheel. Now, I talked about this before. Problem is, when you're driving along and you need to indicate, and you're in the middle of a turn, so let's say you have 2 roundabouts, or you're going around a big roundabout and the indicator turns off, or you need to indicate twice in a row, it's really hard to find the right button because they're underneath each other. And because they're underneath each other, you don't know where they are. Now, to be fair to Tesla, I think that having no buttons on the wheel is a really clever thing. I think it's smart. I think it's a great safety feature. It takes a little bit to get used to having no stalks. And I would say the first few days of driving this car, that was definitely something which was on my mind. But once you get used to it, it's really, really good. And I can't fault the auto steer, autopilot, and the fantastic Tesla vision, which lets me see exactly what's going on around me. That is brilliant. Now, I'm not a huge fan of how it handles the lanes when driving. I'm not a huge fan of the adaptive cruise control. It feels like it's too hesitant to me, if I'm honest. It's more likely to slow you down when you don't need to be slowed down than when you would want to be. That's safer, so I suppose it's a good thing. But if I want to change lanes and it doesn't like me changing lanes, and I've got the auto steer on, it will actually give me a big jerk to the side, which I will demonstrate, which I really don't like. So let's go around this roundabout here, put the indicator on. Hard to know when you press the indicator button because there is like no feedback. We do have the blind spot assistant, which is basically the only way you know. Maybe if the indicator was louder, it would help. Now I need to change back to go around here, and that was a bit tricky. That was one turn of the roundabout, so it wasn't too bad. But if it was a bigger roundabout, that would have been hard. So this whole problem of not being able to necessarily know where the indicator is, that is a problem. Let's have a demo of the auto steer. How it works, you don't press a button, and it has the markers on both sides of the road here. This is just like the old previous way it shows it. I've chosen this rainbow road because it looks cool. We're going to now go on to the M25 motorway. So I'm going to indicate off. We're going to get the blind spot, which is very handy. But look at this. This drives me mad. The car is steering, but I want to manually adjust it a bit because I'm not too comfortable, and it automatically turns off the auto steer. We're going to go off again here. We come down here. There's no lines in the middle of the road. It doesn't know where it's going, so it turns off the auto steer. Now, that's not a bad thing. I want to be clear. It shouldn't stay on if it's going to not be able to understand what's happening with the road. My concern is, or not concern, my personal feeling is the thing that I dislike about it is that it doesn't automatically re-engage. I then have to physically re-engage it. So I feel like I'm a bit closer here and I want to turn it this way, or that we're coming to 2 lanes here. I got to pick a lane. It disengages. Now, on pretty much every other car, what will happen is, yes, it will disengage just like here, but it will re-engage automatically. The lanes will vanish, the lines will go off on any other car system, and then they will come back as soon as it sees the lanes again. I can't fault this car's ride quality or its technology or the fact that it is super, super safe. Even if I don't like necessarily how it uses that assistant technology, it's an excellent, excellent car. No complaints there. And if you buy a Tesla, it's totally understandable why you would love it and why people continue to love it, because these are excellent cars. Don't let my minor quibbles about how the assistance system works make anyone think that I don't love this car and I don't think it's a good car. It is a fantastic car, and it is very quirky and it is very unique despite being a super popular car. Let's check the 0 to 60 time on the rear wheel drive. Go! So not that fast off the line to be maybe expected because it's not the performance model. 5.98 seconds. I think sort of mid fives are possible. I believe that's possible, but this is not the performance model, but rear wheel drive, 5.98 seconds. We're in the Model 3 Performance and we have the insane acceleration on, and it is insane. And I will test the 0 to 60 time a bit later. But this is the performance model, so it is a car which is meant to be the sporty Tesla, the I guess the M or the RS of Tesla. Now, as a road car, does it live up to that, or is it lacking? Well, I can tell you from my previous video on the facelifted Model 3 that it was a really good car to drive. The suspension, which is improved on this car and is more dynamic, which we'll get onto in a second, was already really good on that, and it was able to handle the roads and the bumps in the roads and the potholes really well. And it just felt like a better car than the previous version. Tesla had improved it, and the facelift was more than just a design upgrade, but also actual improvement of the car's handling and ride and suspension. Well, this has got even more. This is the first Tesla with dynamic adaptive suspension. So it actually detects what the road is doing and it adapts to that. So as I go around this corner here, it felt very stable. I could feel the suspension. Well, maybe I can't feel the suspension doing it, because the whole point of this is you can't feel it. But what I can tell you is, as I went around that corner, it felt like it had become more stable mid-corner than it had before I went in. So it felt like something was going on, and that is a really good feature that this car has. Now, there are other features too of this Model 3 Performance. Other than the design changes, which I've already talked about, there's also a track mode. It brings it into line with other performance manufacturers of cars, such as BMW, such as Mercedes, who have track settings available to them. This is a super fun car to drive. You effortlessly overtake people if you need to, because you've got that 460 horsepower of power, you've got loads of torque, and also it's very quiet, so nobody knows you're coming. So you're like gone past them before they can even react in lots of cases, which is one of the things I love about electric cars and overtaking. If you've got a powerful electric car, most of the time nobody even knows you're overtaking until you come past them, which is what I love. This car is dynamic and feels much more sporty than the standard Model 3. And it also has very decent range. We've got a WLTP rating of around 319 miles, and I'm seeing quite happily with a full battery around 250-260 miles, which is pretty much in line with what you expect from all cars nowadays. My own Q4 e-tron has around that when it's fully charged at 100%, but that doesn't have 460 horsepower, that doesn't have a track mode, and that isn't as dynamic. It's a totally different kind of car, being an SUV. But for Tesla to have this performance and that range there is ace, and it's really good, and I think that it's a fantastic achievement that they've been able to do. And Tesla originally had the range leading capabilities in their cars, and to have it with the performance model, that's a really good thing, which I'm very impressed with. Let's check 0 to 60 time, go! Can we get there in less than 3 seconds? 3.42. The road is a bit wet, it would be fair to say. I have no doubt that on a not slippy track or road, we could easily do it in the 2.9 seconds that Tesla claims. Now we're in track mode. Track mode is designed to give you 100% of the control and composure that you can want when driving a car. That means if you turn into a corner, it's very precise. The brakes are optimized to be great and to be very sharp. And of course, we do have brand new brakes on this car, which are meant to be optimized for track performance. And as I turn in and I move the car around, it feels precise, it feels quick, and it feels very level. I have to say that this is feeling very, very stable in the corners. Now, I'm not on a track, now I'm on a road, and this is a fantastic road car. A fantastic road car that can go nice and fast on the road within legal limits, of course. I don't know about on a track because I haven't driven it on a track, but there's little doubt that it will be very, very fast wherever you take it. Will it perform in the corners? I don't know, but you'll definitely have a lot of fun trying the drift mode. What do I think of the Tesla Model 3? I think this is a fantastic EV, and you can't go wrong if you buy one. There are some quirks that I'm not a huge fan of, so as long as you're prepared for those and you're open to adjusting to those, then I think you'll be very, very happy with this car. If you want to see more videos on EVs like that, then please click here and here. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.